Ambassador Krelthin's sensory tendrils coiled tightly against his crystalline exoskeleton as he studied the holographic display before him. The quantum readings made no sense. They simply couldn't be real. Yet there they were, pulsing with undeniable clarity. Humans had achieved faster than light travel, and they'd done it by breaking all known laws of physics. "Play it again," he commanded, his voice resonating through the observation chamber of the celestial Voyager. The hologram flickered to life once more, showing the crude human vessel, little more than a collection of metal plates held together by what appeared to be industrial adhesive. As it punched through space-time, like a child cannonballing into a swimming pool. "Most enlightened one," his AI assistant Vex chimed in, its crystalline form shimmering with concern. "This is the 73rd time you've reviewed this footage." "Because it's impossible, Vex." Krelthin's tendrils lashed out in frustration, causing the nearby sensor arrays to vibrate. "Look at their equations. They didn't solve the quantum displacement problem. They didn't account for temporal feedback. They just. According to human documentation, they yeeted their way through space-time, most enlightened one." Krelthin's secondary heart nearly stopped. "Please tell me you didn't just use that word in official diplomatic correspondence." It's the term their lead scientist used in the research paper, along with YOLO, and something called "hold my beer." Vex's form flickered as it processed this information. "I'm still trying to understand the scientific significance of these terms." The ambassador sank into his meditation pool, letting the nutrient-rich liquid soothe his agitated nervous system. When the Galactic Federation had detected humanity's first successful FTL flight, they'd immediately dispatched their most experienced diplomat to make first contact. After all, any species achieving faster-than-light travel needed to be properly inducted into galactic society. But everything about humans defied convention. Most species spent centuries perfecting their equations, building massive energy arrays, and conducting careful experiments before attempting FTL travel. Humans had apparently gotten drunk at a physics conference, decided Einstein was being too much of a buzzkill, and found a way to punch holes in reality through sheer stubborn determination. "Show me their other technological achievements," Krelthin commanded, hoping to find something that would make sense. The holographic display filled with images that made his third eye twitch. "They've developed artificial intelligence," Vex reported, "but primarily use it to generate images of cats wearing business suits. They've mastered nuclear fusion, but seem most excited about using it to power something called a gaming PC. They've created quantum computers, but mainly employ them to simulate something called Minecraft with better graphics. Surely they must have some sort of unified planetary government, some grand council that guides their species' development. They have something called social media, where their leaders engage in public arguments, using pictures called memes." Krelthin's tendrils drooped in despair. In his 3 centuries of diplomatic service, he'd never encountered anything like this. The standard first contact protocols seemed woefully inadequate for a species that had turned spite into a technological advancement. "Most enlightened one," Vex interrupted his brooding, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." The holographic display sparked to life, showing a human female wearing what appeared to be a formal diplomatic outfit adorned with something called light-up Crocs. "Sup, my dude," the human exclaimed, causing Krelthin's universal translator to short-circuit momentarily. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's appointed diplomatic liaison. We heard you've been creeping on our FTL tests, so we figured it's time to party. Want to come down and grab a pizza? We can show you how we made physics our by." "Diplomatic language, DR. Shihin," someone shouted off-screen. "Right, sorry. We formally invite you to engage in diplomatic discourse regarding humanity's achievement of faster-than-light travel and our potential inclusion in the galactic community. But seriously, we've got pizza." As Krelthin stared at the transmission, watching the human diplomat try to balance a spinning piece of circular food on her nose while maintaining eye contact, he realized something terrifying. This was only the beginning. He had to report back to the Federation Council, and for the first time in his career, he had absolutely no idea what to say. "Vex," he said quietly, "prepare my meditation chamber, and perhaps research what this pizza is. For diplomatic purposes, of course. Of course, most enlightened one. Should I also investigate why they keep referring to you as my dude?" The landing pad at the United Earth Space Administration headquarters buzzed with an energy that made Ambassador Krelthan's crystalline structure resonate uncomfortably. Humans of all shapes and sizes had gathered to witness his arrival, many holding devices they called phones to capture the moment. Several were wearing T-shirts with crude drawings of his species and text reading, "Ailamau." "Most enlightened one," Vex whispered through their private communication channel. "I believe they're tailgating." "They're what?" "It's a human custom of gathering in parking facilities to consume food and beverages before significant events. Several humans have brought something called hot dogs and are cooking them on portable heating units." Krelthan's diplomatic training had not prepared him for this. The standard first contact protocols called for solemn ceremonies and formal exchanges of cultural artifacts. Instead, he was watching a human in a full-body alien costume do something called the worm while others cheered. Dr. Sarah Chen approached, mercifully wearing more traditional diplomatic attire today, though her hair was dyed in colors that matched his crystalline hues, a detail that both touched and terrified him. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador." She performed the traditional diplomatic bow, then immediately ruined it by adding finger guns, ready to see how we cracked the FTL problem. The research facility was a chaos of activity that made Krelthan's orderly mind spin. Whiteboards covered in equations stretched from floor to ceiling, interspersed with what appeared to be cartoon drawings and motivational posters featuring cats. One scientist was bouncing a rubber ball against a wall while muttering about quantum harmonics. Another was napping in a hammock strung between two supercomputer banks. "Here's our pride and joy," Dr. Chen announced, leading them into a vast chamber. "We called her the Hold My Beer." The spacecraft before them defied everything Krelthan knew about FTL technology. Where there should have been massive quantum stabilizers, he saw what appeared to be repurposed satellite dishes. The elegant fold space generators his people used were replaced by something that looked suspiciously like a souped-up microwave. "You'll notice we've incorporated elements from various Earth technologies," Dr. Chen explained, patting the hull affectionately. "That's a modified pizza oven we use to heat the quantum plasma. And that thing that looks like a disco ball. Turns out it's perfect for focusing tachyon particles. But the calculations," Krelthan sputtered, his tendrils twitching. "The quantum mechanics alone should have." "Oh yeah, about that." Dr. Chen pulled up a holographic display. "We actually solved it during a game night. Dr. Patel over there was really into this old video game called Portal, and it got us thinking. What if we treated spacetime less like a barrier to break through and more like a thing to, well, poke really hard until it does what we want?" Krelthan stared at the equations floating before him. They were elegant in their brutality, like watching someone solve a complex maze by walking through the walls. "We call it the nope drive," she continued cheerfully, "because basically we're telling physics nope, we don't think so, and then doing it anyway." "That's not possible," Krelthan whispered. "Funny thing about humans," Dr. Chen grinned, "telling us something's impossible just makes us try harder, want to see it in action. We're doing a test run today. We've got snacks." Before Krelthan could protest, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. His heart sank as he recognized the signature of an approaching vessel, one that shouldn't have been anywhere near Earth. "Bah, Ambassador." Dr. Chen's voice had lost its playful edge. "That big, scary-looking ship that just popped up on our sensors, friend of yours." Krelthan's crystalline structure paled. "The Harvester Collective. They're a species that acquires technology from developing civilizations, usually forcefully." He expected panic, screaming, perhaps a rushed evacuation. Instead, Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with what he was learning to recognize as humanity's most dangerous expression: curiosity mixed with defiance. Oh, really? She pulled out her phone. Hey Siri, play Welcome to Earth from Independence Day. And somebody get me the president. I think it's time to show our new friends what happens when you mess with human innovation. As the facility erupted into activity, somehow even more chaotic than before, yet strangely purposeful, Krelthen realized he was about to witness either humanity's greatest triumph or their most spectacular failure. Either way, he had a feeling the galaxy would never be the same. The UESA Command Center had transformed in a matter of minutes. Gone were the casual attitudes and playful banter, replaced by a focused intensity that made Ambassador Krelthen's crystalline structure vibrate with nervous energy. Humans rushed about with purpose, their earlier chaos crystallizing into something he hadn't expected. Competence. Harvester ship is holding position just beyond lunar orbit, a technician announced. They're broadcasting the standard surrender your technology message. Real original. Dr. Chen stood at the central console, her earlier levity replaced by a calculated smile that reminded Krelthen uncomfortably of a predator sizing up his prey. How long until they realize what we did? About 30 seconds, by my count, replied Dr. Patel, who had abandoned his rubber ball for a complex array of holographic controls. The virus is already through their first firewall. Krelthen's tendrils writhed in confusion. What virus? When did you? You haven't even made contact with their ship. Remember how I said we've been studying your transmissions while you were observing us? Dr. Chen's grin widened. Turns out the same principles we used to crack FTL travel work pretty well for hacking alien computer systems. We've been ready for first contact for a while now, friendly or otherwise. On the main screen, the harvester vessel's external lights flickered. Their threatening message cut off mid-sentence, replaced by something that made Krelthen's translator stutter in disbelief. Are you forcing their ship to play something called Never Gonna Give You Up? The Rickroll is a time-honored human tradition, Dr. Chen said solemnly, before turning to her team. Okay folks, Phase 2. Let's show them our little surprise. The Hold My Beer, which Krelthen had dismissed as a crude experimental vessel, launched from its bay with surprising grace. But instead of one ship, there were now dozens, then hundreds, filling the space around Earth. Holograms, Dr. Patel explained, noticing Krelthen's confusion. We figured out how to project quantum-entangled light structures that fool most scanning systems. Amazing what you can do with repurposed gaming hardware and a healthy disrespect for the laws of physics. The harvester vessel, still broadcasting 1980s Earth music against its will, launched a swarm of collection drones. They moved with mechanical precision, targeting what they thought were Earth's defensive ships, only to pass right through the holograms and collide with each other in a spectacular display of confusion. Now for the fun part, Dr. Chen announced. Initiative code, Muno reverse card, the real Hold My Beer, hidden among its holographic duplicates, activated its unusual drive. But instead of moving through space, it created what Krelthen could only describe as a localized bubble of pure impossibility. The harvester's weapons fire bent around it, their targeting systems crashed, and their supposedly impenetrable shields flickered as Earth's crude yet effective technology introduced them to humanity's special brand of physics violation. You see, Ambassador, Dr. Chen explained as they watched the harvester ship spin in confusion. Most species look at the universe's laws as absolute. We look at them more like guidelines. Suggestions, really. And sometimes, the best way to win isn't to have the biggest guns, but to make your enemy question everything they thought they knew about reality. The harvester vessel, its systems thoroughly compromised, and its crew presumably questioning their life choices, began retreating. Their final transmission, before their communications went dark, was a single message in universal code. What are you people? Should we tell them? Dr. Patil asked, already typing up what appeared to be a meme response. Nah, Dr. Chen replied. Let them wonder. Mystery is good for the soul. She turned to Krelthin, who was still trying to process how humanity had just defeated one of the galaxy's most feared civilizations using what appeared to be a combination of pranks, impossible physics, and sheer audacity. So, Ambassador, still think we're not ready for galactic society? Krelthin looked around the command center, where humans were already celebrating their victory by starting something called a dance-off, while simultaneously documenting the entire incident for something called Reddit. His diplomatic training was screaming at him to maintain decorum, to follow proper protocols, to file the appropriate reports. Instead, he found himself asking, what exactly is this Rickroll, and why do you consider it a weapon of war? The cheer that went up from the humans told him he might have just made a terrible mistake. As Dr. Chen pulled up a historical database of what she called internet warfare, Krelthin realized that humanity wasn't just ready for galactic society. Galactic society might not be ready for humanity. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation had never been so lively. Ambassador Krelthin stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, his report on humanity causing what could only be described as an interstellar existential crisis. They did what to the Harvester Collective? Demanded High Counselor Zix, their quantum form flickering between states of disbelief and alarm. They introduced a mimetic virus into the Harvester's neural network, Krelthin explained, his tendrils twitching as he recalled the event. The entire collective is now obsessed with something called cat videos and has redirected their conquest fleet into establishing an interstellar pet adoption program. The chamber erupted in chaos. The hive mind representatives of the Nexus swarm were arguing with themselves about the implications. The silicon-based Computronium assembly had crashed and required a hard restart. Even the typically stoic energy beings of Tau Ceti were producing distressed wavelengths. But that's not all, Krelthin continued, bringing up a holographic display. Human influence is spreading faster than we can contain it. The Rigelian Empire, after watching human action movies, has transformed their dreaded war fleet into something called a street racing crew. The Mechanoid Collective downloaded human memes and now communicates entirely in picture-based references that none of us understand. This is unprecedented, High Counselor Zix declared. No species has ever caused such rapid cultural change across the galaxy. The traditional power structures are getting totally pwned, interrupted a familiar voice. Dr. Sarah Chen strode into the chamber, apparently having hacked what was supposed to be an unhackable security system. She was wearing her diplomatic uniform, though she had somehow modified it to display animated holograms of dancing Earth creatures called Doge. "How did you get in here?" demanded the High Counselor. "Oh, that." She waved dismissively. "Your quantum encryption was impressive, but it turns out it can't handle being shown pictures of cats in space. Something about the inherent absurdity creates a temporary breakdown in reality that we can exploit. We call it the chunk drive." Krelthin watched as his carefully prepared diplomatic presentation was derailed by humanity's characteristic chaos. But he was starting to understand something profound. The galaxy needed this chaos. "Representatives of the Federation," he found himself saying, "I know this seems frightening. Humanity breaks every rule we thought was unbreakable. They treat the fundamental laws of physics like a suggestion box. Their solution to most problems involves either making friends with it or turning it into a form of entertainment." He gestured to where Dr. Chen was now teaching a group of fascinated quantum monks how to do something called the Macarena. "But look at what's happening. The Harvesters, our oldest enemy, are now running animal shelters. The Rigelians are organizing drag races instead of invasions. Even the Mechanoid Collective is showing signs of developing a sense of humor, albeit one that mostly involves binary code puns." The chamber had grown quiet, the assembled representatives watching as their carefully ordered universe was transformed by human unpredictability. "Perhaps," Krelthin continued, his crystalline structure resonating with newfound conviction, "we've been too focused on maintaining order, too afraid of change. Humanity isn't just ready for galactic society. They're showing us parts of ourselves we forgot existed. Also, Dr. Chen added, we figured out how to make pizza in zero gravity. Trust me, once you try space pizza, there's no going back. Who's hungry? As the most dignified gathering of galactic leaders in history devolved into what humans would call a pizza party, Krelthin realized he was witnessing more than just cultural exchange. This was evolution in action, sparked by a species that had decided the best way to explore the cosmos was to make friends with it, confuse it, or if all else failed, turn it into a meme. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. One standard galactic year after humanity's introduction to interstellar society, Ambassador Krelthin sat in his newly renovated office aboard the Galactic Federation headquarters. His traditionally austere diplomatic chamber now featured what humans called a beanbag chair, a mini-fridge stocked with energy drinks, and a collection of potted plants that his research suggested were absolutely vital to office feng shui. Most enlightened one, Vex materialized, its holographic form now sporting a tiny animated bow tie. The annual report on human integration is ready. Hit me with it, Krelthin replied, using one of the many human phrases he'd adopted. His fellow diplomats were still adjusting to his more casual communication style, but as Earth's official liaison, he felt it important to embrace their culture, even if it meant occasionally having to explain why he'd started ending official transmissions with lol. Where should I begin? Vex asked, sorting through countless data streams, perhaps with the Arcturus Science Academy. They've adopted something called freestyle physics, where students are encouraged to, and I quote, vibe with the quantum realm until it gives up its secrets. Results. They've made more breakthroughs in the past month than in the previous century, though there was that incident with the quantum harmonics lab being turned into what humans call a sick dance club. Krelthin's tendrils waved in amusement. What about the cultural exchange programs? The Hive Mind Collective has become obsessed with human reality TV shows. They've started their own series called Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Hive Mind Edition. It's currently the most watched program in 3 sectors. A notification pinged on his quantum display. Another message from Dr. Chen. She had been appointed Earth's ambassador to the Federation, though she insisted on the title Chief Fives Officer. The message contained what appeared to be a cat wearing a spacesuit with the caption, Astronaut Kitty says, space treaties are best treaties. The diplomatic corps is still trying to understand why we now conduct negotiations using meme diplomacy, Vex noted, but satisfaction rates are up 300%, and interspecies conflicts are at an all-time low. It's apparently very difficult to maintain hostilities when exchanging pictures of small Earth animals wearing professional attire. Krelthin nodded, remembering how the recent trade dispute with the Orion conglomerate had been resolved entirely through a carefully curated sequence of SpongeBob memes. The resulting agreement was not only favorable to all parties, but had somehow spawned a new form of interpretative dance. And the technology sector. Humans continue to innovate in concerning ways. They've modified their Nope drive technology to create what they're calling fast travel points throughout the galaxy. The Physics Council is still trying to understand how they're doing it, but preliminary reports suggest it involves treating spacetime like, and I quote, a pizza dough that just needs a good stretch. The ambassador's crystalline structure hummed with contentment. A year ago, he would have been horrified by such cavalier treatment of fundamental cosmic laws. Now he found himself appreciating the elegant absurdity of it all. There is one concerning trend, Vex added, its bow tie flickering anxiously. Other species are beginning to adopt human methodologies. The quantum monks have started a space yoga program that somehow improves FTL efficiency. The Silicon Collective is experimenting with something called meme magic that appears to actually alter local reality through the power of shared jokes. And the energy beings of Ta City have become influencers. And how do the humans feel about all this? They're excited. Dr. Chen's latest report just says, lol, based followed by 17 emojis that I'm still trying to decode. Krelthan rose from his beanbag, a process that had taken considerable practice to master, and moved to the observation window. The view had changed significantly over the past year. Ships of all species now sported colorful paint jobs and names like Moo Destroyer and Void Vives. A group of former harvester drones floated past, their fearsome collection arrays now modified to project giant holographic cat faces into space. You know, Vex, he mused, when I first encountered humans, I thought they would break the galaxy. And they did, in a way. But they broke it like you break in a new pair of shoes, making it more comfortable, more flexible, more fun. Most enlightened one, Vex interrupted. Dr. Chen is requesting your presence. Apparently, it's something called Taco Tuesday at the Earth Embassy, and she says, if you're not here in 5, you're automatically cringe. Krelthan smiled, his crystalline form shimmering with all the colors of Earth's famous auroras. Tell her I'm on my way. And Vex, bring the memes. As he made his way through the transformed halls of the Federation headquarters, passing anti-gravity skate parks and quantum graffiti art, Ambassador Krelthan reflected on how far they'd all come. The galaxy hadn't just survived humanity's chaotic influence, it had embraced it, evolved with it, and become something greater than the sum of its parts. And somewhere out there, in the vast cosmic dance of civilizations, the universe itself seemed to be smiling. Or maybe it was just another one of humanity's giant space emojis. At this point, it was getting harder to tell the difference.